Hey guys, it is NCS Fan 001 here for another one of those weekly trophy list update videos. Today's date is Monday, July 11th, 2022. So this will have covered the week of July 4th through the 10th of 2022. I think that I'm pretty much entirely over the later lasting side effects of COVID, so thankfully that is done. I mean, I feel fine now, just still kind of tired, but I think I'm always tired anyway, so not really a big deal. Anyway, this was a pretty productive week because we did a semi-platinum dumpster dive on Friday night, and I also made progress in other games. So we can start on off with Ghost of Tsushima. It is now 100% complete. And probably forever, because I think this Legends Rivals and Mastery Challenge just came out like a solid year ago, and there hasn't been any like major updates since, so I'm gonna knock on wood here, but I do think that we are done getting DLCs for Ghost of Tsushima, which is great. I mean, I loved the game, but some of the multiplayer stuff was a little bit obnoxious. I mean, the raid mainly, and the fact that you have to do a whole new game plus, which isn't really difficult, it just takes time. But anyway, we can go back through the entire trophy list now that we're going back to the game. So you get several trophies just for completing the main story, like a fifth of your list. Everything through here is story related and unmissable, which is great. Then you have to complete all of the Tales of Tsushima, which is going to get you a bunch more trophies. There's something like maybe 60 to 70 of these. These are side quests. Some of them are fairly short, some of them are quite a bit longer, but there's something like maybe 60 or 70 of them, so there are quite a few that you have to do. 20 kills with a counterattack after a perfect parry. This one took me longer than I expected. I think I was just not really that good at doing it. Then shooting a terrified enemy with an arrow while they flee. This is easiest done once you get the ghost stance unlocked. Then you have to defeat the maximum amount of enemies in a standoff. It's 5, and you have to have the fully upgraded Sakai clan armor to do it. You have to stagger 50 enemies. That's basically unmissable. Every duel is technically, some of them are story and some of them are around the map. You have to knock an enemy off of a ledge to kill them. I don't remember exactly how I got this, but I know I didn't have much trouble with it. It was one of my first trophies. You have to kill 20 enemies with Ghost Stance, which you can't get until a little bit later in the game, but it's quite powerful once you do get it, so 20 enemies is not too difficult. This is basically a leveling up trophy. You will get this naturally while going for everything else in the game. You have to learn all of the different combat stances, which is pretty much unmissable while clearing Mongol territories. You have to acquire the throwable ghost weapon techniques. I think you have to purchase some of them with your skill points. You have to fully upgrade your sword, which does require quite a few materials, but I mean, it's not too difficult, it just requires materials. You have to equip charms in all 6 slots, which is fairly easy. You have to collect 10 gifts, this should come naturally while playing. You have to find 30 pieces of vanity gear, so you just have to run around the map and find these. You can set your traveler's attire, which gives you that, like, wind thing, and just set that to the vanity gear and find them fairly easily, whatever you don't get just naturally playing. You have to do all of the lighthouses around Tsushima. There's like maybe 8 of them on the main island and 2 in Iki Island. So there's about 8 of those, but they're fairly easy. I mean, you can always follow a guide, or you can just use the guiding wind. I think you can use the guiding wind for those. Umigi Cove, I think, is a story-related trophy. You have to do all of the Shinto shrines. I don't really remember how many of those there were. There are far more than 10 hidden altars. This one's a little bit tricky because they aren't marked on the map in any way, so you are going to need a guide for these. You have to discover a Pillar of Honor and collect its sword kits. That's a vanity item, but that's fairly easy. There's like 20-ish of these. You have to purchase items from 2 different specific merchants. It just requires you to have some flowers. This one requires you to find specific gear to make you look like Sly Cooper, and they're a little bit more well hidden, but if you're going for like 100%, you would get these along the way. You would just have to also dress up as it. For this one, you have to go to the friend's grave and then play this song, which requires you to have found, I think it's either 4 or 5 of the singing crickets of like 20 in the game. Then you have to personalize a scene in photo mode. Apparently this trophy does not auto-pop if you were carrying over your save from the PS4 version. You have to collect 20 records. There's like 40 of those, and there's like 40 Mongol artifacts, or one of them's 40, one of them's 50, I believe. Then you have to complete all of the hot springs, haikus, inari shrines, and bamboo strikes. Hot springs are the places where you just go and sit in the water and you get more health. Haikus, you just pick 3 sets of dialogue to create your haiku. The inari shrines are where you follow the fox around and then you get to pet it afterward in some of them, which is the best. And then the bamboo strikes are slightly annoying quick time events that give you more resolve. And then you just have to liberate all occupied areas of the game. So there's quite a few things you have to clear out overall in this game. I can't remember exactly how many it was. It was probably like 30, 40-ish, probably around 40 or so territories. So about 40 different like Mongol encampments. A couple of them are story related. Most of them you have to go out and find. But once you complete the main story, they all appear on your map, which is really nice for like cleaning up. So we'll talk about Legends mode in a minute. First off, I want to talk about New Game Plus, because this was one of the main trophies I got this week. This one did take a little while to get through the game in New Game Plus. It didn't take that long, though. It only takes like maybe 8 to 10 hours total if you're mostly just focusing on the story, because like Act 1 is pretty long, but Act 2 isn't that long, and Act 3 is pretty short. So it doesn't take too long to get through if you're just focusing on the main story stuff and doing, just a handful of little side quests along the way that maybe pop up right in front of you. But the nice thing is you don't have to do it on a higher difficulty, so you can just do it on easy difficulty, so it's not going to be any problem whatsoever to beat it. You do also have to purchase something from Baku the Voiceless, who is going to be found right at the beginning of the game. He's on like a little island that's almost right in front of you right at the beginning of the game, and you have to use ghost flowers to purchase things from him, which you may not have ghost flowers at the very beginning. You might have to complete like a mission first before you can get it, but nothing too difficult there. Then you have Iki Island, which is the entire like story. Then you have Iki Island, which is the story expansion, and it's split into 2 separate trophy lists. So you have one story-related trophy here for beating all the story missions. It's not a particularly long DLC. Between the 2 DLC packs that come with this, the story and the exploration, I would say it's like 10 plus hours probably. Like 10 to 12 hours total to get through all the trophies. So you have one story-related trophy, then you have to finish all of the tales. There aren't a ton of them here, but there are maybe like 10 or so of them. So there are some side quests to finish. You have to build up your legend, which is basically another leveling up trophy that's separate from the base game, but you'll get this naturally while doing all the other trophy stuff. You have to liberate the island, which I believe... So I got that trophy a little bit before I survived the Eagle's Medicine. So I can't remember if this one is story related or if it's partially story related and partially clearing out the Mongol encampments on the island. There's not very many. There's only, I want to say it's 8 total on the entire island, so there's not a whole lot, and some of them are story related. You have to complete all of the mythic tales. There's only like 2 of these, I believe. You have to complete the memories of your father, which are pretty easy. There's 5 of those, and I believe you can set your guiding wind to it, or just look up a video guide. And then you have to find and complete all of the unwritten tales. There are 5 of these, and they don't show up on the map. They're actually pretty well hidden, so you are going to probably need a guide for all of these, because, again, they are pretty well hidden. But another good thing is you can do everything on Iki Island on the easy difficulty. I did it all on normal, but it did get a little bit tough toward the end. There were a few trickier fights in this one, honestly, even compared to the base game, so just keep that one in mind. As for exploration, you have to embody the spirit of the monkey, so this requires you to complete a little puzzle related to some monkey statues at the monkey sanctuary. You basically have to find 3 statues and do an action in front of each of them. They could be a little bit tricky to figure out, so you might want to have a guide pulled up for those. You have to get bronze or higher on all of the archery challenges. I want to say there's 8 of those, but bronze level is very easy. You have like 22 seconds to finish each one, and concentration makes it much easier. You have to complete all 9 animal sanctuaries, which are found across the map, and I believe you can set your guiding wind to them. You have to complete the Bakken duels, which is with the wooden swords, basically just like practice dueling against various enemies. There's 4 of them you have to beat. A couple of those were kind of tricky, because I either couldn't figure out the exact pattern or was just struggling with it in general. They're not terribly hard, but that one was... A couple of them were a little bit harder than I expected, we'll say it that way. Then you have to complete all of the haiku onsen, Shinto shrines, and bamboo strikes. There's not that many haiku and bamboo strikes. There are a couple of lighthouses. There's one Shinto shrine. I think there's 2 lighthouses, 1 Shinto shrine. There's several haikus. There's several bamboo strikes. I don't think there are any Inari shrines, but you have the other animal sanctuaries, which is a whole separate thing. And I think the onsen are those 4 special shrines throughout it, but I could be wrong on that. And then finally, you have to purchase an item from each of these 2 merchants, the Crimson Dye Merchant and the Sakai Horse Armor Merchant. For the Sakai Horse Armor Merchant, you have to find Sakai Clan banners. There's about 30 of them, but you only have to find 6 for this. For the Crimson Dye Merchant, you just purchase that with flowers like you would normally. So the last 2 DLCs are related to the multiplayer mode, the Legends mode. And I will say, I did not mind the Legends mode. Overall, I found it to be fairly fun. There were a few parts where it got kind of dicey, and it was definitely a little bit grindy. But honestly, both me and Ghost found it to be fairly enjoyable for the most part. So we'll talk about the raid in a second. So from the bottom, you have to reach rank 20 in any role, and then reach rank 20 in all 4 roles, which is just grindy. It's not difficult, but it does take some time. This is where you're going to be sinking a bulk of your time for the multiplayer into. Probably a good 25 hours to reach rank 20 with all roles. I mean, you can get all the other trophies along the way, but you are going to take a good 25 hours probably to get ranked up that far. You have to complete all of the Legends mode stories on any difficulty, which means you can do them on bronze. You'll have to do that to unlock silver, which you will then have to beat silver to unlock gold, and gold story missions are a decent way to level up, especially if you only have like one other person to play with. Though if you have a full group that's pretty good, or get lucky with finding groups, then you can actually grind out your levels pretty effectively in gold survival mode, which is basically just a 15-wave survival mode against increasingly tougher enemies. And if you have a good group, these aren't terribly hard to get through, but you probably won't win every single time, and when you don't win, you don't get a whole lot of XP for it. So nothing terribly difficult throughout this. I mean, we completed multiple final waves of gold survivals, and then completed all the story missions on both bronze and silver, and then a couple of them on gold, and then the reaching rank 20. As for the raid is divided into 3 chapters, as you see here. The first chapter is a bit tough at times and takes a solid... I mean, if you were really good at it, you could do it in probably like 30-40 minutes, but it took us well over an hour, I think, to get through it. But we were kind of getting carried, but we weren't in communication with the people that we were playing with. So that was probably part of the issue, and they weren't like telling us where to go or exactly what to do at any given time. So that's part of why it took a while. Chapter 2 is the really long one. That one took a little bit over an hour, even getting carried by some really good players. Now, I will admit, I did hold my own in this. Like, I completely held my own with most of the combat. It was just, I didn't know any of the mechanics, and there were still some times where I was a little bit underleveled and underskilled for it. But overall, I would say I definitely held my own in the combat portions of it, and then just listened to their instructions for everything else. And we knocked out Chapter 2 within a little bit over an hour. And then Chapter 3 can be beaten in 5 to 10 minutes if your group knows what they're doing. So pretty much got carried through that, and it only took about 6 minutes. So final chapter is pretty easy. First chapter isn't awfully long. The second chapter does take quite a while. But if you have a good group to play it with, it's not terrible. Or you can just get carried through it like we did. But I mean, I would say if you really like the game enough and really like the multiplayer enough, go ahead and try to learn the raid mechanics and such, because it's only one raid, unlike, say, something like Destiny that has several raids. And I can't say it's particularly mechanically challenging compared to some raids in, say, the Destiny franchise. About the most you're going to have to do is jump to the elemental platforms with either the sun or moon or whatever the other attunement is. That's about the extent of it, and shooting bells to make platforms appear. So it's not particularly mechanically difficult, I would say, compared to some raids out there. I mean, it was still obviously kind of tough for me because I didn't really know what I was doing and didn't look at too many videos before it. But there are definitely harder raids out there, especially in other games. And then finally, there's the Legends, Rivals, and Mastery challenges, which is based around the multiplayer, like the actual multiplayer, which is this Legends Rival mode. So what you do in this is it takes 2 teams of 2 players and pits them against one another, and your goal is to kill enemies to earn points, which can then be used to send shades, which are like ghosts or other similar abilities, over to the other side and slow them down, and it's whoever gets a certain amount of points and defeats certain enemies first is the winner. So you have to win a match, which can be done in a private match with a boosting partner. Summoning 5 shades in a single Rivals match has to be done in a public match because you can't do it in a private match, unfortunately. But you can do it in a public match, and it's not too difficult. Like me and Ghost each knocked this one out without really any trouble, each in 1 game apiece. Then you also have to bind a piece of gear to a class, which requires the gear to be, I believe, 110. So you won't be able to get that until a lot of your characters are leveled up. And then you have to purify a cursed piece of gear by completing some kind of challenge for it. Some of the challenges are easy, like just killing a certain number of enemies. Some of them are more difficult and require more tricky procedures to get. So it's not that hard of a DLC, and you can pretty much get all of this along the way with preparing for and then completing the raid and the level 20 with all character classes. So it's not too hard. I mean, overall, this entire 100%, if you get carried through the raid, I would say that this entire 100% is like a 3 to a 4 at most out of 10. But it is going to take you the better part of 50 to 100 hours for sure. Because doing everything in the base game is already going to take you about 40 hours. This multiplayer DLCs, the 2 together, are going to take you probably another 30. So that's already 70 hours, another 10 hours for New Game Plus, and then probably another 10 hours for Iki Island. So that's, 80, 90 hours unless you're really speedrunning it. So it is a long overall 100%, but it was a lot of fun. I highly recommend this game. It's one of my favorite games I've played in the last few years. It's my favorite game I played on the PS5 so far, and I will highly recommend it. Once again, it's a great game. Definitely play it. So then we have some games from our semi-platinum dumpster dive. It was a few easy platinums, then I played some Tiny Tina. So first off, we have an auto-pop here, Resident Evil 3. I auto-popped the platinum, so yeah, I mean, I auto-popped it. There's not really much else to say about it. People are doing it like crazy nowadays. You have a few story-related trophies through here, all story-related. You have to beat the game on Inferno, which I believe you have to beat the game on Inferno with an S ranking. The nice thing about this game is that you can farm points at any sort of checkpoint. You can just farm in-game points that can then be used to purchase various permanent upgrades. The biggest one, of course, being the infinite rocket launcher. I believe there are also some kind of healing tokens, which make Inferno mode, even with an S rank, pretty easy. You have a few miscellaneous trophies that are very easy. This one you have to do a certain amount of damage to Nemesis at a certain point. That, I believe, is story-related. This is a puzzle early in the game. That's story-related, or actually, no, that one maybe you can, like, skip if you don't really want to do it or something. So then the S rank on Inferno, again, it's not terribly difficult as long as you have that infinite rocket launcher. That's story-related, This one is toward the end of the game, but given that you'll have to beat the game 3 or 4 times anyway, you'll get this during one of your playthroughs. 2 more story-related trophies for boss fights. You do have to destroy all of the Charlie dolls, so you get 1 trophy for one of them and 1 for destroying all of them. 2 enemies with a single shot is pretty easy. I just don't remember exactly what weapon I used for that. Probably the infinite rocket launcher. Read all the story files. It's another collectible type. There's not as many as Resident Evil 2, I don't believe, but it's still a collectible type. Same with the Charlie dolls. You have to collect all of the weapons and unlock everything in the game. So neither of those are overly difficult from what I remember, but you are going to probably need collectible guides for all the different collectible types. And then just complete the game on different difficulties and with an S ranking. If you were to complete the game, if Inferno was available from the beginning, you could probably do it from the beginning on Inferno and try to get an S rank there and unlock all the trophies at once. But you can't actually do that because it's not available from the beginning. You have to complete the game without opening the item box, which means that you won't be able to have access to your infinite launcher, but you can do this on the easy difficulty, so it's no problem. Then you have to complete the game using no more than one recovery item, but you can use those like healing tokens or whatever they are that I think are some kind of reward that gives you at least some amount of healing. And then you have to complete the game in under 2 hours, which you'll probably get on a couple of your different runs. So overall, I mean, it's not a particularly hard platinum if you're doing it legitimately. Obviously, I did it legitimately on the PS4, and then just auto-pop the PS5 version because it was on sale, and I just decided to go ahead and do it. Another Resident Evil game done. That's most of the numbered games, just, you know, the PS5 version of 7, both versions of 8, Resident Evil 0, and the PS4 version of 6, which I'm not entirely ruling out yet. Next up, we have the Pigeon P, the North American PS4 and North American PS5 version. It's been a few weeks since I've done one of the animal letter games, as I call them. As with all the other ones, you simply hold the X and or R1 button for 3 minutes and you get Platinum Trophy. So 805 to 808, it's the same as all the other ones. At least in the more modern ones, they actually give you, you know, facts. Because I guess that's an improvement. Pigeons have delivered the mail. Pigeons can help tell the weather. They're spiritual in some religions. They can recognize themselves. They're good at multitasking. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You guys know my thoughts on this kind of game. The only reason I play them is because I have to be higher on the leaderboards. And they're not good games. They barely qualify as games. But again, you guys know my thoughts on this kind of game, so I'm not going to spend any more time on it. Next up, Round Invaders. This was a very poor Asteroids type clone. The good thing is it's extremely easy, and I would have been able to finish it even faster had I known what the trophies actually required. Because it looks like it took me about 3 minutes, like probably 2.5 minutes. Overall to get it, and if I had known what the trophies were, I would have been able to cut down a little bit on the time. So you do have to finish 4 levels, which is extremely easy. Like, you should have no problem finishing 4 levels. You have to get a total of 2,000 points in a single playthrough, which you should get by the time you finish those 4 levels, so nothing difficult so far. You have to destroy a red saucer, which I believe you can do on level 5. Shoot 1 time, that's unmissable. Hit a different button to shoot a rocket, which is nice and simple. And then you have to finish a level without using a single rocket, which you'll probably get naturally because you might not even realize the rockets are in the game at first. And then you also have to die on the level after spending all of your rockets, so that should be the last trophy you get if you really, know what you're doing with the game. It's nothing difficult at all. You can finish it in 2 to 3 minutes. If you know what you're doing, you will have absolutely no problems. It's not the worst game I've ever played, but it wasn't a very good one. We will say that for sure. Next up, we have Takorita Meets Fries. This is a Ratalaika visual novel game, and it's very typical of Ratalaika visual novel games. So with this one, all of the trophies are tied to completing the game with all of the different endings. So in order to do that, you are going to need to make a couple of backup saves because there are 2 dialogue choices throughout the game. There's 1 dialogue choice, so let's see. Complete the prologue, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 will get you your first few trophies. Then when you get to Chapter 3, you will have different dialogue choices. You'll have like 3 or 4 different places you can go to. I think it's 3 different places you can go to. And one of those options will later lead to a second set of dialogue options. So basically you just have to travel each of the paths. There's only a handful of paths, and you can follow a video or text guide to knock them out very easily. As you can see here, the Platinum Trophy took about, 19. So it took me about 6 minutes on this version, whereas this version took me about 4 minutes because I knew more what I was doing. So it's a very, very quick, easy, simple Platinum Trophy. The animation style or the art style is a little odd, to say the least, in this game. And I think the story was about them trying to make French fries and finding potatoes to make the French fries. I don't know, I didn't pay much attention to it. but you can do your text skip and everything like you can in most visual novel games. So just make those couple of backup saves, travel each different ending pathway, and that's all you got to do. It's that simple. There's really not that much more else to say about this. It is what it is. It's a Ratalaika visual novel game. And then, finally, the bulk of my time this week, aside from that Ghost of Tsushima stuff at the beginning of the week, was spent on Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep, a Wonderlands one-shot adventure. So, for this game, I'm making pretty good progress. Even though I've only got 50% progress, I've earned 2/3 of the trophies. It's just that there are several gold trophies left. So, currently, I still have to complete the first rank of all challenges, of which there are a few trickier ones. I think I've got maybe 20 challenges left that I have to do something on, which is fine because I'm still going to have to play through the game on true Vault Hunter mode for the leveling trophies, because this level 35 trophy is a massive grind in this game because you're not going to get anywhere near there through natural play, through the course of 2 natural playthroughs. Even though Ghost did power level me, I don't know if it's going to get me all the way to level 35, so I'll probably still have to do some grinding. Then you have to have purple rarity gear or better in every slot. That's pretty typical for a Borderlands game. That one shouldn't be a problem by the time I'm done with that true Vault Hunter playthrough. Then you have to do 100 kills with the Saber Turret and phase lock 100 enemies, which are both character abilities for the Commando and the Siren respectively. Both are very easy, they just take a little bit of time to grind out. Gunzerking for 90 seconds is going to require you to reach level 11 with a Gunzerker, so you're either going to want someone to power level you or use the Gunzerker as your main character, but I wouldn't recommend that because there's another trophy for a different character that takes even longer. So Gunzerking for 90 seconds will require you to be level 11 and purchase certain skills. And then it's not overly difficult to do 90 seconds. There's a few different places you can do it. I did it in the starting area out of Flamerock Refuge. It took me several tries to get because I kept missing it by a few seconds, but it's not too difficult. It shouldn't give you too much of a problem. You have to kill a Chubby, which is by far the worst trophy in the game. I mean, the grinding for the levels is pretty bad, but the Chubby is insanely rare in this game, so not looking forward to that. We're going to see if I can manage to find one just through sheer luck during all the other trophies, but otherwise this will probably be one of my last trophies in this game. I don't know if I want it to be my last trophy just because it's so random, but we'll have to see. You have to redeem 25 badass tokens, which you'll get by completing challenges. This one's pretty much unmissable over the course of all the playthroughs you're going to have to do. You have to remain in Zero's Deception mode for 10 seconds. This is going to require you to be level 15 as Zero to be able to purchase everything. So playing Zero as your main character, if you're not going to just have someone power level him, is going to be your best bet. But the actual trophy is easier than the Gunzerker one because you just have to get a handful of kills within a short period of time, and that's all you have to do. It's pretty simple. Then you have to complete a specific side mission, shoot this guy in the face. There's about 29 total side missions, and you do have to finish all of them for another trophy. The only tougher ones are the Murderland's Temple and the Raid Boss, which are going to require me to be a little bit higher level than I currently am. You have to unlock 10 customization items. That's basically unmissable while doing all of those challenges. Revive someone on your friends list from Fight for Your Life, so you are going to need a second player for that one. 5 items on the black market, which just requires Iridian, which is pretty easy. Mr. Bodie Pants Guy is a store-related trophy, as is this one and this one. So you got 3 story-related trophies here. Those are all very easy. Then once you beat the main story, return to Butt Stallion in Flamerock Refuge and feed her Iridium 3 times in a single visit for this trophy. This one, I'm not entirely sure what you gotta do. I think it's an area-specific trophy, so I need to probably look it up and see what I have to do. This one's actually pretty easy. Just go to any area that has a lot of skeletons and unearth the 5 swords at once. I did it about midway through the game when you go to like a grove or something around a giant tree and you have to kill about 4 big giant skeletons. That's a really good place to do this. That's where a lot of people did it on the PS3 and PS4 versions of Borderlands 2. You have to finish Murderland's Temple, which is a Circle of Slaughter. I'm just not quite high enough leveled for it. The Mysterious Amulet, this trophy is actually missable. There's ways to screw up the side quest, Or, well, no, the side quest isn't missable, but there's ways to screw up actually getting the amulet, and if you screw it up, you are going to need someone else to be kind enough to drop it for you and let you use it for a few seconds. This one is for rolling the dice. You have to get either a 1 or a 20. This one is the raid boss. This is how Ghost power leveled me. We played this several times, and it leveled me up like crazy, and it got me the trophy, but I am going to have to do it again just to get the side quest completion for it. And then finally, you have to kill 100 enemies with Death Trap, which is the... I think her character is Gage. It's her action skill. And then you also have to get 100 kills as the Psycho during Buzz Axe rampages, but those trophies are both easy. And then finally, you have to fire the Lutapult, which is found in the mines. And I actually knocked that one out with Ghost because he had the areas opened up, so that's how I did it. So obviously we're making progress on Borderlands, but it is going to take a while to get through the rest of it. I mean, I still got to do all the level grinding. I still got to find and kill a chubby, so I don't know how much longer it's going to take me to get through. So guys, level 788, 15%, 630 platinums, 3,975 golds, 6,303 silvers, 12,808 bronzes, for a total of 23,716 trophies. Plans for the upcoming week. The main major focus is going to be Tiny Tina's One-Shot Wonderlands. That is really the only major focus for this week, with possible touching up on the Division, because I think I found someone to play it with, so I am actually going to give it at least one more try, and, see how far we can get through it, see if we can actually manage to do anything. So that'll probably be on the weekend, though, because I think he can only play really on weekends, so we're going to give it a try. So I'm not 100% giving up on it yet, but Tiny Tina is still going to be the main focus throughout the week. So aside from that, I need to pull up my listing because I didn't get to give that good of an explanation last week of what I wanted to do. So aside from those two games, the next old game I'm going to clean up is Black Ops 3, and I'd like to get started on it by the end of the month, hopefully a little bit sooner, unless we start having success with the Division, because that would be priority number 1, and then Black Ops 3. Then in August, go back to GTA 5 and do whatever I can in it. September, possibly do the Division 2 and Dead Island Riptide. I mean, Dead Island Riptide won't be a problem, but Division 2 I am definitely a little bit worried about. And then October through December, COD Classic, Shadow of the Colossus, remainder of Uncharted 3, Conan Exiles, and Outer Worlds, as well as other games that I have not yet started. So, yeah, that's really all of the plans for the upcoming future. There's only, 11 incomplete games left on my profile. 2 of them I can't get anything else in. 1 of them I can't get very much else in, that being Uncharted 3. So really more like 8 games left. So that's kind of awesome, and obviously I will eventually get Tiny Tina done. I will eventually get Black Ops 3 done. I will eventually get Conan Exiles and Outer Worlds done. It's those other 4 or 5 games that concern me more. So we will see more about what those, like with GTA 5 again, I'm not worried about the heists. I'm not even worried about beating the Doomsday heist. I'm just worried about those last 2 trophies that may just forever be unobtainable for me. Same with the Division. If we still can't get through survival, even if I have people to play it with, it might just be the time to give up on it, unless I can ever find someone to fully carry me. Also, look at this. We got a new Our Church and Halloween RPG game. It is a pinball game. So I don't know what that's going to be like, but since I've done all the other Our Church and Halloweens, I got to do that one. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video, guys. Please like, favorite, share, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell if you haven't already. When it comes to videos and streams next week, I don't yet know if I'm really going to be able to stream this coming weekend. I might be kind of busy this coming weekend. So we will have to see if I'm able to stream. Hopefully I'll be able to stream at least once, but we will have to see. So yep, that is going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you back here for the next one.